Welcome to Binging on Britain. I'm Katie and I'll be your host as we gorge on bits of British history. Each week we'll explore 10 questions about British history and archaeology. If you have a question you'd like answered, leave it in a comment and you may hear it in an upcoming episode. Let's dig in. Question number 1. What slimy creature was used for currency in the Middle Ages? Eels. Ick. Right up until about 1500, eels were a common form of currency, with rents being set not in monetary values, but in eels. If you thought money was dirty, imagine carrying around a handbag full of eels to go shopping. Question number 2. What kinds of games were played in medieval England? According to medievalchronicles.com, indoor games included chess, checkers, blind man's bluff, card games, and dice, both of which could be used for gambling. As a side note, Henry VII's Queen Elizabeth of York was known to have borrowed money from her sister Cecily to pay off her gambling debts. Ducksters.com notes jousting, hawking, hunting, and archery as typical outdoor pastimes, as well as a game called game ball, a forerunner of European football, or as we call it in America, soccer. Question number 3. Did they have bananas in medieval England? So bananas were long believed to have been introduced in Britain on April 10, 1633, when merchant Thomas Johnson displayed a bunch of plantains in his shop. However, in 1999, an archaeological dig at Southwark found a blackened banana peel. The peel was carbon dated to 1460, nearly 175 years earlier than Mr. Johnson's plantains. Question number 4. Could medieval priests marry? This is an issue that is long and muddled, but the short answer is yes. From the beginning of Christianity until the 11th century, and perhaps even beyond, priests did marry. One issue that came about as a result was that ecclesiastical land was then inherited by the oldest son, which removed land from the church's power. It was also argued that priests who were sexually active, even within the confines of a marriage, were somehow defiled by having sexual relations with their wives, making them unable to provide communion without divine penalty, therefore putting their parishioners at risk of eternal damnation. Question number 5. What are Britain's weirdest archaeological discoveries? I found 4 very strange discoveries in Britain, and here they are. The Lloyd's Bank coprolite is a large piece of fossilized Viking feces. It tells us a lot about Viking diets and parasites, but it's pretty gross to think about. The Leicestershire bark shield is a shield from the early 4th century made of wood. Despite its composition, experimental archaeologists have found that it would have been about as strong as a metal shield, while being significantly lighter and probably cheaper to make. The Govan stones are a group of stone sarcophagi that only occur where Celtic and Viking culture collided. While Celtic culture was suppressed by the Romans in most of Britain, it thrived in the north, as well as in Wales and Cornwall. North of Hadrian's Wall, Vikings came into contact with the Celts in the 9th through 11th centuries. Now, this last one isn't a specific find, but more of a scientific finding. For a long time, it was believed that the oldest homes, excluding castles, palaces, and manors, dated from the early to mid-17th century. However, a comprehensive study of 86 cruck houses in England and Wales found that they were built between 1260 and 1550, at least 100 years older than the homes previously believed to be the oldest. What I wouldn't give to live in a house from the 13th century. Question number 6. Did anyone survive the sinking of the Mary Rose? Well, out of a crew of 400 to 500 men, tragically, fewer than 35 survived. Question number 7. According to crack.com, what are some hilariously embarrassing archaeological discoveries? There were a whole bunch of penises, some weird drawings, a golden bong, an ancient complaint chiseled on a tablet, some burnt cheese, and cat paws in ink on medieval manuscripts and stamped on Roman roof tiles. Question number 8. What year did the Battle of Bannock take place? Well, this battle between King Edward II and the victor, Robert the Bruce, was one of the battles of the Scottish Wars of Independence and took place in 1314. Question number 9. What is considered to be the greatest archaeological discovery ever made? Well, the two that concern England are the intact tomb of King Tut. The excavation was funded by Lord Carnarvon and run by Howard Carter, both Englishmen, and it is the only intact tomb to have ever been found in the Valley of the Kings. And secondly, Sutton Hoo, which brings us to our final question. Who discovered Sutton Hoo? What did they find, and how did it rewrite history? Well, the ship burial at Sutton Hoo was discovered by local archaeologist Basil Brown under the watchful eye of landowner Mrs. Pretty. Discoveries of garnet, gilt drinking horns, a ship, and most iconic, the Sutton Hoo helmet, taught us that while little written evidence survives about the Dark Ages, it was a time of culture, beauty, wealth, and civilized society rather than a time of warring tribes and barbarous, broken-down society. Thanks for joining me as we binge on British history. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you have, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a comment. If you'd like a shout out in a future episode, please leave a question about British history that you'd like answered. For more information about today's questions, see the links in the description, and please join me next week as we tackle 10 new questions on binging on Britain. Have a great day. Bye-bye.